government or any kind of local government in their life, and they think they know better than your local elected officials, which means they think they know better than the voter. They filed a House Bill 175, which is to do away with Texas Association of Counties. They call it the anti-lobbying bill. We've never spent $1 on lobbying. We don't spend public money on lobbying. With almost 7,000 bills filed, we can't keep up what's down there without TAC telling us what's going on. These are the same people that want to do a 60-day limit before they can even start doing work. Why are we going to wait 60 days? It's so the rest of us get noticed. It's kind of like the Open Meetings Act. So if you hear somebody that tells you, oh, what there's public lobbying going on, maybe out of Houston and Dallas, but they ain't got nothing to do with Hill County. And what they're attempting to do is kill an organization called the Texas Association of Counties. Let me tell the public how much money that's going to cost you if they're successful with this. Number one, we get a preferential deal on all of our insurance. All of our cash management goes through Texas Association of Counties, has for decades. We've put it out for bid. Nobody can come close to it. Number two, all of your elected official training. Nobody walks off the street and knows how to be county judge or treasurer or commissioner. All these things require education. TAC is tasked with doing that education from the judges to the clerks to the commissioners. Without that organization, that's out. So this whole idea of it's public funded lobbying, it is a shot at like Texas Public Policy Foundation and Mucus and Sticky and his group of people can get down there and say, and we have no voice. These are the same people who are trying to shut down our ability as county officials, elected voices. But we're going to suddenly not be exempt from lobbying. We have to register. Now, these are the same group of people that said, well, if people want to change state law, they should come to Austin. They should run for legislature. As the governor said that the other day. And those people don't understand that this state has always been operated from the bottom up. The Texas miracle come out of Austin. It survived because, in spite of Austin, we are seeing a serious number of bills filed by the deadline at a local level because of more unfunded mandates. About 70% budget is an unfunded mandate. That means the state says you shall do it or else, and we're not going to. So I go on this little rant real quick to let you guys know. I spend a lot of time looking up. Don't believe everything you see coming out of Austin. Question your representatives, but more importantly, question their motives. Property tax. How are they going to do that? If they're going to taxes, where's that money going to come from to pay for the services? Well, exactly where it's going to come from. They're going to county government as a credit card, push that off on us and say it is our fault. So second, look at some of the stuff that's coming down the pipe. They held a bunch of hearings really quickly here, trying to get some things out of the way that I mean, hey, folks, Austin doesn't run this. Those clowns can't even run that city, much less that building they got. Representatives, and if they prohibit us from doing that, or they try to make it, well, the county judge can figure it out. No, it can't. And I got one secretary in here, and I got a maintenance man that runs the janitor. That's what I've got. I don't have the time to go through thousands of bills. I don't have staffs of people. Nobody here does. So pay attention. The circus is in town, and they're not your friends. So anyway,
when you say do away with,
I mean literally. Yeah,
literally do away.
It would. We would. It does. It came out. They found a freshman House representative named Trox Clark, prove her conservativeness, but followed a bunch of big government bills. It's coming out in Mays Middleton. He used to be a staffer. He personally hates TAC with a passion, and he's a senator. And I had a long conversation with Thursday about this, Friday, somewhere in there. And he doesn't believe that Mays Middleton hates TAC. I said, well, look at the bills he's filed the last 3 sessions. They literally had the words Texas Association of County in them. You know, if you're against public, the state of Texas, because they spent several million last year on lobbying in Washington, D.C. What's the goose is good for the gander. We've had to answer these surveys on what we spend on lobbying. We wouldn't do that. We don't have the money to do it. Hell, we got a hard time taking care of the roads and keeping the jail full. So, where's the money for lobbying come from? So we have to do a lot of that. It's one thing I didn't know about this job when I got here. How much around trying to kill bad legislation. Stuff that folks in Austin got in their head, it's going to sound good in the news. Like Mr. Holmes said, if they kill tax enabling legislation, there is no way to have that to win to their own resources. We're going to have to band together then to pay people a lot more money, because what we can do together, we can do cheaper than what we can do separately. We can offset that load. Poorly thought out legislation that's coming out of a real sorry mouthpiece, and that's the Texas Policy Foundation. There's another group of fracking lobbyists out of West Texas that want to run the show and be the only voice in the legislature. And anyway, I'm probably making a lot of friends this morning, but I don't care. All right, so the agenda we have in front of us. No open forum. I gave no, nobody want to beat up on. That was good. All right, we have the consent agenda today. That's action on invoices, action on payroll, action on monthly report for revenue and disbursements, and observe and record elected officials training. And I know some of them may see other money. Much that is very important. So
that's 16 hours that we have to give every year. If we don't have tax, it's going to be sort of difficult.
and then of course the TAC keeps up. Hard to have, and
Where are you going to get it?
that's even better. Yeah, you don't. So, and the 80 hours the chase and the 32 hours for the first year county judges. I mean, yeah. All right, so I'll take a motion for the consent agenda if everybody's allowed.
Second.
Motion second. We need these emails from the treasurer's office on payroll and accounts payable. I reviewed. Yes. Here are the minutes and the minutes of the executive session that we had. Here's Mr. Colton's. Well, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Number one, court orders today. Wage and status changes. We have before us our hires today. We have Miss Teresa Miles, the sheriff's office. Oh, 6 years of experience. Good hire. Welcome aboard. Jared Charpenter, who hiring the jail. Colin Stark, who's a new hire in dispatch. We have some folks that are moving on to greener pastures. Heather Cornelius has moved along. Mrs. Sherry Wagner is being appointed as the associate judge in Tarrant County. Well, I'll tell you what, congratulations, Ms. Wagner. I don't know if y'all know Ms. Wagner. She's been our assistant DA for several number of years now, an incredible human being, but also an incredible that she is a fair and impartial party, and she will make a great associate district judge. So I wish her all the best. Wage and status changes. We have Scott has got a 1-year step raise at sheriff's office. Dalton DeHara also successful completion of field training. Preston Caldwell had a successful completion of field training, and Brian approval of employee wage status change. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Number two, discuss and approve to apply for opioid settlement funds with Attorney General. Yeah, I know we did this, but where's 4 of them now? There's 4 different opioids. We participated in 3, and I'm asking your the settlement agreements. I'm asking your permission to participate in the 4th now. First, it started with some of the major manufacturers, then it started off with some of the major distributors, and now it's moving on to some more of the minor distributors. As Texas continues to enter into settlement agreements with these parties, they make these available to us to participate. Should we participate? Each one of them's had slightly different rules. I think you remember the first one, they were directly to us for opioid abatement, and then the rest of it was going to be grant. Some of these later ones, just there was no grant application to it. So I'm asking for your permission for the county judge to go at settlement funds at the Attorney General's office.
Second.
Motion second and coffee. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Discuss and action accept bid for the sale of real property located at 200 East Franklin. Is not just 200 East Franklin, even though that's all we've ever carried it on our books as. And it would be property 200 East Franklin, 208 East Franklin, 210 East Franklin, and 11459 in the Hill County Appraisal District. Ladies and gentlemen, I have before me, I will enter into the record where publication has been noticed to be published twice in the local paper. I tender that to you, ma'am, for to go along with this bid. That bid came in and was opened at the appropriate time and date. This is the same folks as before, Texas Waco Housing Authority, right? And their bid is still $772,000. It is my recommendation that we accept the bid and move this down the road. Of 200 East Franklin, 208 East Franklin, 210.
Third time the charm.
I don't even know if that applies here. To be honest with you. We just have better, we have better attorneys in here. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed, motion carries. I'll have to sign that, I'm sure. Yeah, when Mrs. Sidney was talking, there's not gonna be any throwing on that rock. Yeah, so. All right, number 4, discuss and approve to apply grant. You got to make a presentation. You can't come all the way down here and smile at us. I know.
3rd, which was a lot sooner than it did 2 years ago. The pandemic slowed it down 2 years ago, and I was very nervous that they weren't up, but they did. So it opened up March 3rd, and I'm just it'll approve for me to apply for it. It's a 2-year grant. They went up on the amount this year to $49,000. That's per year to cover for a 2-year term. The application is due April 14th. Covers is my salary, fringe benefits, conferences and trainings, and travel. And that's what it's typically covered the last few years that I have personally applied for it. Beverly Girl applied for it. In reading through the application kit, always was the right to not give us the grant, and to give it to whoever had it before, or their county is more in a desperate need for it. My mandated, as it is in every county. But there is always a concern that we may not.
A couple of years in the past, but we've always
Yes.
funded. We put it. Is necessary position to have, and so we've always chose to fund it, even if the grant funding did not.
And it's been a very busy year since COVID, since the courthouse has been. Since we have hired Ken Dawes, we've been a jury trial a month. And then when we got delayed in January, we had 2 jury trials in February. We have been nonstop. Domestic violence has been on the rise, as it really is, and especially during the holidays. And so I've really been swamped. And me applying for this grant, and then I don't know if I get until August, but just to be able to apply and then think I get it would just be appreciated. And I haven't paid, so if you do approve it, I haven't paid that just the commissioners, one commissioner, that it can be any one of you, will sign, and then of course, Judge, I have my application, you have a page to sign.
Motion a second to approve the county judge, or approve Ms. Cole actually to apply for the crime victim grant, VCLG. Is there any further commentary, discussion, question? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Here's the page.
Okay. We'll get that right. All right, moving along. Number 5, receipt and acceptance of application for tax abatement of Midpoint Solar LLC. Come on up, you have the con. As you guys know, by commissioners, I should say, that the 313 there were some projects that got through to the comptroller's office by that date. So I know of about 4 right now. That's all of them. That's what I can find. Gentlemen, why don't you tell us about your project and what you're thinking?
I'll start. My name is Troy Reed. I'm with Ernst & Young based out of Austin, Texas. I represent Samsung Renewables. This is myself and my colleagues out of Austin. On behalf of Samsung in securing 313 incentives that have now, set. Also approach counties and other taxing jurisdictions for the available local ourselves, introduce the project, and then ask for your acceptance for us to submit it. So starting construction NTP at the end of this year,
Okay,
and then hopefully COD would be Q4 of 2004.
Commissioner Holcomb, this project is going to be in your precinct. They have, correct me if I'm wrong on this, you gentlemen have 313s with both blind. Pretty much on the line between those two, and hadn't really understood that's going to fall into yet.
Where is it located? Yeah, what's the location?
Have a map here. As far as I try to zoom in as best I can.
Understood.
Sorry about that. The just kind of far out, and then when you zoom in here, so that you guys all kind of
it's around 600 acres of land that we currently have under an option. And yes, some of it straddles both ISD jurisdictions.
It would be good to note that the land is fully leased.
Yes.
Full, land control on the fee itself, 600 acres. And Judge, you're absolutely right that the properties that are listed there are pretty much split down the middle. Covington, Blum, it's further on in the process of where they're going to set panels, right? That's still in development. Nice.
Megawatts.
It's going to be 88 megawatts
Okay.
with a battery storage.
Gotcha. What's your total investment you're thinking?
It's going to be around $150 million. Depending on the studies back from ERCOT, right? How much available land is there to you? Can you actually store out there, right? But then there's the other aspect of, okay, for the battery storage component, which is investment itself, but you don't need as much land area. So they could a decision during the development process, either increase the size of the battery or decrease the battery. That's all going to depend on information gathered from ERCOT with how much this distribute as far as battery storage and solar generation.
Well, gentlemen, they're kind enough to come in the office and sit down and kind of go over their project with me. I explained to them, we don't get tax abatements. Our main goal here is to lock you into a road use agreement. That's not exactly the way. We probably won't do it any favors, and to work with you guys in that
counties, I'm definitely gonna bring it to Mike's attention. It doesn't make any sense, just, if we can, leverage what I've seen was works, but been, good for counties, I'm gonna bring it up, right?
Appreciate that.
Because that's,
We have a draft of the road use agreement.
I can get you that. This is our new commissioner in precinct 1 where your project will take place, Mr. Holcomb. He's been here since about the second week of January now. I will get you a copy of some of the previous ones we've done with some, so. There, hey, what worked, what didn't work. We've learned as we've got to this. The more of these we do, the more finely tuned our agreements. This isn't where, hey, we're going to make it look like Interstate 35 when they're done. We're not trying to be punitive. We're just trying to make sure it doesn't look like, what was the number on that road this morning you showed me? As I do, and I think definitely what you saw down in your precinct, how much damage can be done to roads in just a short period of time. We've also spoken to these gentlemen about our preference that they minimize their reinvestment zone when we go forward with that. Didn't make it not much more than the footage. Obviously, I'm not going to hold you to the fence lines of your boundary. You might have to expand the project, and I want a 10,000 acre reinvestment zone. Hold on, that's about that. So today what's being asked is we just simply accept the abatement for consideration. It's not saying that we agree to terms. It's not saying that we have finished negotiating at this point. We haven't even started negotiating.
The application.
Just accepting the application. Then the next step after that is we'll approve of the reinvestment zone, because I don't believe there's any existing reinvestment zones in that part of the county. So
that's correct.
and then we'll have that 30 some odd day. It actually works out 45 between our meetings or so. Where we'll look at the approval form of the tax abatement agreement and have a public hearing and comment on reinvestments.
We would talk.
Okay, good to.
I see McPherson's name on there. Is that part of the old dairy? Used to be an old dairy.
I'm not sure, sir. Yeah, it's right.
So they're not gonna be coming off any county road.
I don't know. Let's see, I'm not.
$20,000 a mile is maybe a little low.
I'm going to say a couple of years ago, our average. Now, remember when I say our average, it's not just gravel and dumping it. It's the man, the truck, the roller, the maintainers, the operators, the insurance, the whole 9 yards. Because if you haul all the way down to Mount Calm, that price goes up.
And if you hold the number.
Yeah, and if I think FEMA's numbers might get more accurate than mine, which is sad to say.
Well, the other problem that's going to take place, depending on the timing of the construction, is they're going to be milling us from 171 all the way to 38.
I heard that. So
And that's what you're talking about. If they don't get that done by the end of the year.
or it'll force them to come in a different route, and we'll need to cover that in our road.
We need to make sure that all of them are, all the routes are covered, and that road use agreement is rock solid. Because that's we can't afford it.
Yes, sir.
That's true. Units are extremely heavy. That I'm talking to, their trailer is 90 something feet long, and the heaviest stuff.
Do you have what your weight's going to look like?
With solar, it's typically I think max payload is around 55,000 pounds for the bucket trailer, but when you're gonna have a substation installed where that's going to be significantly higher in weights, right? But typically what routes that will be in the road use agreement. Along that route, they will shore up if they need additional, they need to widen the road, they need to reinforce the road, right? That is done first and foremost, right? With counties, buying in on this is exactly being done to make sure the roads are able to handle the equipment that's coming in and out. And then along the path as
And ongoing maintenance after the construction.
Correct. Correct.
And one of the concerns we have is, any bridge that's over 20 foot in length or 20 foot length or greater is Department of Transportation All System Bridge Program. So they actually load rate those bridges, post those signs, and there's some legislation down there now requiring them to post it. That's good legislation to make them do it. We have a bridge that's loads on, for less than the rate, less than 80,000 pounds. We need to make sure point that out so that if we need to improve a bridge, well, they know what that's going to cost, or if we need to reroute somewhere else, and it's going to look like.
and during the process, that's exactly right. Figuring out those routes, right? Because that's pivotal to you all, where it's like, okay, that these are what the bridges can withstand. This is what has to be, modified or what have you. So it's very important to get that down in front of you all to get your road use agreement and get it in place so everyone's on the same page.
Take place before the abatement.
Yeah, it'd be part hand in hand. We would negotiate the road use agreement in time, the abatement terms. It all kind of falls into a single negotiation. But yes, the terms of the road use agreement would be well known prior to us ever signing the abatement, and it would be incorporated at least by reference, if not in whole, into that abatement agreement as well as an appendix, which is what we've done in the past. So, motion is second to accept an application from Midpoint Solar City. Oh, I'm sorry, but you said something.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, in which case, if there's anything further, if not, I'll call it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Gentlemen, we look forward to working with
Appreciate
you.
y'all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. They're obviously realizing that I don't know as I used to, so now I get summaries. This is so much better. So we $79,059.36. We spent a lot more than that, but that's what we collected for the month of January 2023. That's our summary. So anyway.
Make both.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. The number 7, discuss and approve budget amendments. Last year was our first year with the new budget software. We had some issues with it. I things in that didn't stay in there. I have a witness, Mrs. Tamara Harrison, assistant auditor, was standing over my shoulder, watched me do it, and it didn't show up. And we have it on tape. This body had approved IT to $500 worth of uniforms. They're going between different buildings and wanted them to identify themselves. It just, that budget line item did not show up in the final budget for whatever reason. So we're asking you guys to correct that. Form of budget amendment. The next one, the appraisals are $37,718 short of our estimate. Ag extension, we have, we're adding additional dues and memberships on the feral hog program. So that money come out of non-departmental contingencies as well. As you will recall, that we knew that there was going to be some additional costs there associated with moving into this new building. So that's where those budget amendments are coming in now, is covering the costs.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the budget amendments as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion shall carry. Thank you so much. Number 8, discuss and or action on Patillo Brown and Hill audit for adult protective offices. It's APO. And that's for fiscal year 22. I'm happy to report that once again, there were no fines for the year in the black, which is great, can do that. So we have, if you will look on this document, page number 4 starts your financial statements, and that's the combined financial position of August 1st, 2022. We had total assets of 546,161 and fund balance, bringing total liabilities and fund balance $546,161. Combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in balance fund is on page 5. You move forward and it shows the diversion program funds on 6, and individual statement of revenue expenditures and changes in balance. That's the budget, the actual, and the variance with a favorable, unfavorable between the two. You can see that we had less revenue. That seems to be typical. So, and the same thing, basic supervision, interfund. Pretty good shape. Our total revenue was $71,046 above budgeted, and that came across several different programs. So, in all, the folks down at the adult protective offices are doing a great job for us. I appreciate everything that they, such a small budget to supervise criminal offenders and try to keep our jails less crowded. So, for adult protective.
Take a approve.
Motion to second to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. In favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Number 9, discussion on modification of bank depository contract request for proposal. Mr. Auditor, would you like to speak to this one or?
And most part of it kind of reached out to fix that extension, make sure that it's for it. So that's.
Okay, yeah, and so basically we just give the banks a little more time to reply to this. So what will be our April 3rd. So due date is April 3rd. And we'll still have it due April 3rd at 3 p.m. open at 3:15. Does that sound good? Okay.
Outdated, running in the paper, have everything posted.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, I'll make a motion. A proposal to include a new due date of April the 3rd, 2023 at 3 p.m. and bids be open that same day, 3:15 p.m.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, discussing our action on encumbrance at FY22 budget. Gentlemen, ones that were sometimes not expended, but more often than not late, it seems. These were funds that we attempted to expend, and we're still sitting here twiddling our thumbs for the product to show up. Case in point, the IT car. They told us it's not been assembled yet. They're still waiting for it to get assembled. So to clean up our books, the auditor has asked us to, I recommend that we do. Our goal here is just to enunciate what we're encumbering from year to year 2, from FY23 to FY22 to FY23, and that is the IT van, the Asbel Electronics, which is the district court sound system. Appraisals, like I said, we had an estimate on what the appraisals were going to cost, and after we've created our budget, that cost went up. And that is a function of what the actual appraised value is for the county. So as the appraised value, overall value goes up, that appraisal amount goes up. And then you were said to have. So you have a beginning balance, since the road and bridge funds roll over into each other each year. If commissioner gets $100 and he only spends 98, that $2 rolls over in his fund next year. These are what I'm being told are balances for road and bridge precinct 1, 2, and 4 balances to be. So you have 89,000 additional dollars according to the financial people here that we originally said you were going to have. Road and Bridge 2 has an additional $36,000 more than they thought they were going to have in their. And Road and Bridge 4 has an additional $35,000. I didn't do the math, so I don't know where you're at here, man. Indigent health. And then the county clerk's records. She's got she's going to encumber 32,200. This is for imaging plats project. As she goes forward, can take these old plats, try to put all of it into a digital format. I'm really impressed with the way that's going. Appreciate you taking care of that, taking care of our records that way. The state investigative fund, this is 40 numbered for a project that we've already approved previously at the sheriff's office. Those are the budget that encompasses for this state. Second to approve. Is there any discussion on any of those? None? Nothing? Okay.
Can we get more?
That's what I wanted to hear. That's the optimism I like. Optimism I like. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion shall carry very much. Number 11, discuss and approve. We're going to have a couple of these things coming up. Discuss and approve setting a public hearing to impose a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit and signs on Hill County 53. When we impose a 30, I thought it was only 35. All right, tell me about 13.3.
Well, the roads in pretty good shape, and the several calls from constituents that it's just a full out racetrack and a danger to their children and
Last night. So yeah, that's people moving too fast. All right, well. 30. Today is the 14th of March. Let's take that out to its natural conclusion. What about the 11th day of April? Is that too soon? That'll be our first regular meeting in April. That's 27 days, 28 days. So. Good deal. All right, in which case then, let us make a motion to set a public hearing on the 11th day of April, 2020. Regular meeting of the Hill County Commissioners Court to impose a speed limit not to be less than 30 miles an hour. 30. Okay, well, let's my motion and take that out to the 25th day of April. Do it right the first time. My amended motion is your second. So we have a motion and a second to hold a public hearing on the 25th day of April, 2000. Less than 30 miles an hour on County Road 1353. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. And on that same topic, number 12, discuss and approve setting hearing to install yield signs on County Road 1439 at the intersection of 1439 and 1432. Again, a public hearing on. I recommend we set it on the same day as the previous one because we have to give the public notice that we're going to put a yield sign up. Those guys, I just
yeah, that intersection we tried to shred the corners to give some line of sight visibility coming off of hill and gaining speed. The people coming up 1439 can't see kind of the traffic coming down 1432. That's the reason. It would be on 14. The yield signs would be on 1439 on both sides of the intersection.
It's a wonderful motion, sir. We have a motion and a second to hold a public hearing on the 25th day of April, 2023, a meeting of the Hill Commissioners Court in order to hold a public hearing on the question of whether to install yield intersection of Hill County Road 1439 and intersection of Hill County Road 1432. Okay, any further discussion? Motion shall carry. Number 13, discussion or action on approve additional full-time operator 3 for Hill County Commissioner Precinct 1. Now, why is that on our agenda? Let me tell you why. The paid positions in our budget during budget time, and what they do, what I understand it is, you're going to take 2 part-time positions and do away with them, rather combine that money and turn it.
It's reimbursable. So just kind of that.
You have to have 30% of that 108 weeks at worst case scenario. All right. Well, I don't want to get into discussing anybody's ability. An issue that I don't want to get into. That being said, fair enough. I appreciate it. I know that he has a little more money than normal and that opportunity to have some more working with the auditor on the FEMA reimbursement. Yeah. So you know what?
Take that position and merge it into another position. So that would be an additional full-time operator.
Okay, so you're going to do away then with 1 part-time at this point?
I don't have, well, I do have one. That's one is very, very minimal.
Okay, so you won't be doing away with any part-time then?
Can't do away with the one.
No, understood. So my question is then, on funding this, what does the funding look like? What is the source of the funds going forward? I mean, I understand we've got some right now, and that's great, but as we move forward, what's usually got us in a pickle is that we have this additional revenue from these FEMA projects, but it's trying down and on, trying to support operations back to that base number. I'm not telling you I'm against this. I'm just saying, thinking through this logical conclusion, how are we going to fund this moving forward?
Well, my initial thought was the FEMA funds that are coming will get me to where I need. There's a significant amount of money remaining.
Okay.
Once we finish the rest of those projects, we filed extensions for those. So those are ongoing. But I know I'm new to this position, but there's really no way that I can maintain the roads with crew. That's just one. So that would give me, if assuming I've got one in the hospital, assuming he comes back, 1, 2, 4, that means 7.
So be 5 full-time positions for me.
What sounds like?
Yes.
Bye.
That's it.
Oh, but you got the biggest precinct anybody too. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. I just want to make sure we talk through it. Everybody's on the same page. So the auditor and the treasurer. It'd be 6 for you.
I forgot about my guy that's in screen.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm not saying you don't need to pay for it. That's not going to pay for this moving forward. That's my biggest concern. But if you think you got to work, you got the auditor minutes, I give him a vote of confidence.
Or could use an extra employee or 2, but we just don't find it somebody qualified. What they do.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you got more employment. And the struggle here is what's between the number of individuals you need to operate plus the amount of money you need to keep rocking or keep the roads passable.
And finding somebody that's an operator 3 who can do it all with us, that might be a challenge.
Yes, sir. I agree with that statement for sure. Motion.
I have a motion.
Thanks.
Motion and a second to approve the addition of a full-time operator 3 for this current budget year for Hill County Precinct number 1. Any further discussion on this? If not, all in favor, say aye. What have you got for us today?
Lake control contract. Year, early 80s, far as I know, but this year. Board has requested 576 working hours for a contract period to start May 1st and then. Of 2023, and this is just for extra, basically extra patrol, law enforcement services at the parks. They're all full property.
Good deal.
The total for the contract this year that we're bidding is $42,888.96.
It could be the lowest inflation I've heard of. It's 41,000 last year.
Yes, sir. So last year I actually took and started looking at the mileage and
Oh, good.
An average of 300 miles driven per shift. This year I took that, went down to about what the actual real average mileage is. Took the rest of that from that line and put it into the officer that's going to be working. So
Okay.
we're able to increase their salary while still maintaining the mileage side of it without really going up too much. If that makes sense.
Motion is second to approve 2023 Lake Patrol contract. Further questions? I signed this later because there's about 20 places on here for me to sign. So I'm gonna leave it in your hands though. That way you can lose it. You can accuse me, but it won't be true. So, all right, in which case I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 23. We have a monthly bank balance report in your packet for February of 2023. Remember, February is a heavy collections month for us, so we started the month with $8,419.94, and we closed the month with $10,073,381.14. Thus, motion second to accept the bank balance report as presented. Any further questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Number 2023. Board have presented their report to us, and you'll see that they have assets, total assets in the amount of $56,769.45, equity of $56,769.45, like there's total equity and liabilities of $56,769.45. Time throughout the year out of our budget, we made $10,772, forgive me, and county funds to them, public $1.70, total income $10,796.74. You will see that our expenses are mainly centered around emergency bedding and emergency clothing. That's what they're there for. So net income for the month was $9,677.78. Again, thank you to the folks on that board for the work on behalf of the children in Hill County. We have County CPS Board Treasurer's Report, February 2023. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Gentlemen, number 17, I don't believe needs any action today. The Cowboys out has gone up. Who would have guessed? So we have stray cattle. The sheriff is allowed to charge what the cost of those Cowboys is. So not worried about that. We may modify it a future day. Coming up, what we charge or what we advertise that we charge per head per day for
What I told Ray was, wait to see what the legislature can do with these and all that thing. And so you think late summer, early fall, and probably run your fee schedule report.
That's I report that every October.
we will run it through, say, 1st of September to get it done by October. You know, any kind of fees like that, and we run it through probably 1st of September, give us a little bit of wiggle room if we
all that.
Yeah. Basically, what we're talking about here on the side for everybody's information is that we charge yard. There you go. It's a boarding fee. So we pick up your cow and we have to hold County cow jail. We have to charge for that because obviously there's feed and water and costs associated. We structured that because, well, we follow leaders in other counties. Well, that cow didn't mysteriously get cheaper to feed. We recoup any taxpayer funds associated with the cost of holding a stray cat before we dispose of them. So there'll be no action on this today. Just wanted to bring that attention. Appreciate you, gentlemen. Give me a second to talk about that. Number 18, discuss and approve Hill County Commissioner Precinct number 2 to purchase a 2020 Saki roller and trade in. Our agenda, it'll fall under the amounts, but tell me a story. What do you got?
Well, I'm trading it to a bigger twice plus the vibrator pneumatic broker.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have offered me a pretty good trade-in for that. I paid like 89,000 for it, and after the discounts and everything, they're offering me like 68,000. And I've used it 3 years.
Yeah, you put some money.
Yeah, in 3 years, it's for that amount, it's done well, but it's fine to trade for a big roller and it'll save time and pressing rock into the oil. So I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion second. Approve Hill County Commissioner 2 to purchase a 2020 Saki roller and trade in an existing roller. And that existing roller is what for the mag roller? Okay. All right.
Number four.
Moving up to bigger and better equipment. All right. That is the motion in the second. Any further discussion on the second?
You went. No, the truck.
All right.
You know when it's-
I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Services and grant engineering and architectural service for the Hill County Post Oak Special Utility District application. Approved to apply on behalf of Post Oak Water Supply, their special utilities district, I should actually say, and they have gone out and solicited proposals for professional engineering services. Mr. Carmichael, you have the floor.
Yes, if I may approach the.
You may.
Proposed resolution, but
Resolution number 1, which is a resolution of the Commissioners Court of Hill County selecting an engineer in conjunction with the submittal of an application for funding through the Texas Department of Ag CDBG 2023-24. It talks about certain conditions represented to the threat of public safety, necessary and best interest of the citizens of Hill County for us to apply for funding. And whereas Hill County Post Oak has sought proposals from engineering firms for application project implementation. These solicitations are compliant with guidance under state and federal law. Now be resolved, the Hill County Commissioners Court has reviewed the proposals and formally selects Hayes Engineering Inc. for the application preparation. And that is the resolution that is before us today.
and there's another one.
Wonderful.
Trailer and Associates.
Yep, and we have that in front of us, and we have formerly used Trailer Associates, I think, many years ago, and they did an okay job. So those are the two resolutions. Anything further?
Except I think your signature line ended up as a very bottom of the resolution.
It'll work out. We'll make it work. So, gentlemen, any questions about what we're doing? We're utility districts in Hill County, as an entity that is set up either as a nonprofit or for-profit, they're a non-governmental entity, and therefore, while eligible for some of these grants, they can't apply for them. It would be my recommendation after review that we approve the two resolutions in this matter. Motion and a second to approve the aforementioned resolution. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries unanimously. I'll give them to Hershey and copies from Hershey.
Ken Kavanaugh with me, he's vice president of our board. Vice president of our board, but appreciate his coming along with it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So I got you here, so I'm gonna ask a couple questions real quick. It just, and I do this because we pay attention to what's going on in our water supply districts or special utility districts. We see there's a lot on our district from growth, and I imagine you guys are seeing the same thing. Like right now, I know, and I won't use any name. At least 2 water that are under TCQ or to add an additional meter. Are you guys seeing the kind of growth that we're seeing in the rest exponential?
We cannot provide water to a couple of customers because our headers are full. We need to upgrade our lines. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, same thing.
Years ago, we started painting water in the city of Corsicana,
Okay.
12-inch line in the Bear Mills Lake. We recently renegotiated that contract for something like 20 plus, probably extend around 30 more years from now.
Oh, wow.
With a fairly adequate water. Just, I want to go to why, but a small amount from Dawson. But one of the projects we're working on probably get us to the point where we won't all need more. Basically, all the water comes from the city of Corsicana anyway.
Okay.
The city of Corsicana, in turn, although I think they're still working on all their details, they can draw eventually as they get everything all worked out from chambers.
All right. So you guys aren't having the supply issue as much as other organizations are. Yours is more distribution. We're seeing both, and then unfortunately, some of them are hit with both at the same time. They don't have any more production capacity, and they don't have the distribution is what they have. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the question. To go anything further?
Make a motion approve.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
He said approve. He didn't adjourn. He's got to stay here.
Approve to adjourn.